So this is what we refer to as a northwest quarter. So this is where the red little blotches, that is where the current student accommodation is located. So we are intending to have that knocked down. What you can see here, these buildings penciled in here, that will be outline planning permission for potentially key worker accommodation. So there would be apartments, which would be attractive for possibly nurses working at the Marlow Hospital, junior doctors working at the Marlow Hospital, where they really are struggling to find suitable housing, suitable accommodation for their workforce. So that would be one example, but there would be other demands. There is a shortage of good quality rental and accommodation available for purpose in that market.
So we've talked with both the NHS and the prison service there to see what their staff might want, what they might need moving forward. And that essentially represents to us a disposal of that corner of the campus. Having knocked down the existing students' accommodation and created outline planning permission for a developer, we hope to generate some real value from that we can then plough back into funding Campus 2025 and delivering some of the exciting plans for refurbishment that we have.
Yeah. Okay, moving on then to again a proposed disposal. So we've dealt with the northwestern quarter here on the campus, and that is a disposal in the sense that we are currently using it as in there is student accommodation there, it's end of life, we want to get it demolished and sell it off. This is a different scenario altogether. Dean Holt Road is currently what is referred to as a brownfield site, but it is green space surrounded by a residential area. It's quite close to another green space which is just along the road towards Boris from the Grosvenor side. Actually, Asgrove lies very close, so it's easy to confuse them, but this is the one which is the this university, or the other one clearly isn't. But there are a lot of green spaces in that area currently. So this one is currently green space extending all around where the red line is drawn. There is currently a sports pitch right in the middle of it. So what we are proposing to do and fund would be to move the sports pitch over to the west, and for that then to either be handed over to the community, handed over to the council, depending on the conversation that we're having, and the rest of it, which is about 2/3 of the remainder, we would then look to have that developed for residential. So it would be a mix of 2, 3, 4 bedroom homes, a total of 70, which again would go some way towards meeting the need for good quality houses in the built-up area of Wrexham, rather than further afield where people need to travel. So that is that is one of two disposals that we are looking to achieve, and again through generating income through the sale of that particular site with outline planning permission for this kind of housing development. All that money will be ploughed into the proposed development here on campus. So for us it's a necessary plank of Campus 2025. So that is why we are submitting all our planning applications, all 6 of them, together as a joint package, with some of them being enablers and other ones being the proposals for investment into the learning environment. And you can't actually have one without the other, or you would detract from it if you took one bit out, because then something else would be impacted.
What we're saying is we need these disposals with the planning permission in order to give us the capital receipts to plough in to the investments we want to make across the university.
How much do you think it's all going to cost?
The overall Campus 2025? Somewhere in the region of 60 million at the moment, and we'll fund that through a mixture of asset sales with planning permission, with external grant, some borrowing, And as Maria referred to before, you know, parts of the North Wales Growth Bid might help us fund part of it as well. So we have a mixed funding package, with each element being integral to it.
Okay, and the second plot, similarly for disposal, although this one is more on the edge of town, is a triangular site at Gatewen, obviously close to Moneypenny, close to the technology park there, close to the A483 junction. That is currently just pure green space essentially. It's on a bit of a camber. So you couldn't possibly completely fill it with houses because of the sort of geological terrain, but it's quite an attractive. It would be quite an attractive plot for housing development. So there would obviously be trees and shrubbery, and it's quite well spaced out, spread out. So a proposal would be for 116 homes to be built there.
So you can probably see now we've got this mixture of detailed and outline planning permission. Detailed planning permission for all of the sites where we want to develop and the work that we want to do, and outline planning permission for those that are disposal, recognising that any developer coming along wanting to buy will have the benefit of an outline planning permission granted, but then perhaps be able to shape it in a way that they want to deliver. So we're not constraining any future developer. And we're doing that in order to, again, to extract the maximum value from those sites by making them as attractive as we can to those developers who might want to come in and purchase.
Yeah, and the fact that the university has the Gatewen Road site and the Holt Rd, Dean Road site on its books, and we're never going to need it for educational purposes, not in a million years. So we might as well put it to some use, and clearly where there is a need for housing in the area, it's about time that there is something with it, basically, so it'll be a win-win in that for Wrexham it'll provide 2 more plots three more actually, within Wrexham Borough to help meet their needs, and for us it'll generate the capital, or part of the capital receipts that we will need.
Is there a plan B, for example, if you don't get outline planning on one or both sites for the funding?
Well, these things are always fluid. So as David said, there is a kind of a ballpark figure of where we think we might be by 2025. And of course the clock is already ticking. We have already spent money on Campus 2025, this space being one of them. That clearly didn't come for free. So all of these things are moving all the time. We can scale things up, we can scale things back. So the way we're not actually doing is in the sense that we're saying, well, we'll strip one out, so therefore something else has to fall by the wayside. Not quite in that way, but we clearly need to keep an open mind. We also don't know how much value we are going to generate from the disposals. That will depend on market conditions, it will depend on lots of different factors that we don't control.
In terms of community engagement as well, I'm aware that a petition has been set up already regarding, I think, the Dean Road site and a public meeting on Thursday. Is the university going to send someone to those public meetings and that kind of thing to liaise with residents and address
Yeah,
concerns?
we're very open. We clearly want to liaise with residents, and as I say, we are proposing to redevelop the sports pitch, put it in a more sensible place actually, and also improve it, because currently it is right in the middle. It's not necessarily the best part of the site, so we clearly need to engage in dialogue and continue the dialogue with relevant people. So we're open to that. If we are invited to the meeting on Thursday, we will consider that invitation, but we haven't yet seen the invitation. Maybe in the post, maybe on my desk right now.
In terms of, obviously, universities coming at this with a view on capital receipts, essentially, to unlock the maximum value to fund other things. Is there any, I suppose, consideration, responsibility in terms of the output for a developer in terms of, say, affordable housing, social housing, that kind of thing? Is that something that you've got control over?
Yeah.
We've worked with the Borough Council and their planning office to advise us on the split of style and size of homes. So when we've talked about the sort of 4-bed, 3-bed and 2-bed on the sites, and then the apartments here at Glyndwr on the northern quarter, we think we've got the mix that meets the planning requirements to deliver that. Clearly it will be down to the individual developers once they've acquired those sites and the planning conditions that are implemented upon them to determine, for example, Section 106 contributions or other media. But at the moment, we've taken the best advice we can in developing a mix of proposals. On the Dean Road site, what would clearly create the most income for the university would be if that site was entirely housing. But we've recognised that there is some use of that site already, and we want to allow that to continue and facilitate that by actually giving them the better facilities that they've got, in the hope that that's appreciated by the local community, it provides a community asset and still allows us to deliver in part a capital receipt from that. So we've tried to factor those things into our thinking as we've developed this so far, and I'm sure we'll refine that as we go along.
Yeah.